Hello, it's Who time, and some lovely leaked details have come out about the upcoming Doctor Who B&M sets for 2022. We have set names and prices, but we don't know which exact figures will be in each set. So all we can do at the moment is speculate on that. Which figures could be released, which is fun to do. And rather than just me talking to myself or talking to the wall, I thought it'd be fun to talk to you guys and get a discussion going down in the comments below. It's the same source as last year. I in fact did a video last year in the spring based off leaked set names, and it turned out to be completely true. So I think we can take this info quite seriously and start to think about what we could be adding to our shelves later this year. Right, let's sink our teeth into the leaked details, and then after that we'll start speculating about which exact figures could be released. First we have Wave 1 releasing in July with an 8th Doctor 3-pack, a 10th Doctor 3-pack, and 2 History of the Daleks 2-packs. Ooh! Then later in the year, presumably in the autumn, we have a Wave 2 where we're expecting a 9th Doctor 3-pack, a 13th Doctor 3-pack, a Davros Dalek Set, a 1st Doctor Electronic TARDIS Set, and another 2 History of the Dalek Sets. Wow, that's quite an array. For those wondering where on earth the new series figure releases were, here they are. Your prayers have been answered. I know not too long ago there was a little mini Twitter storm where people were moaning about the lack of new series figure releases and that the figure range was too classic series focused. Fortunately, character have heard your complaints and responded. Or they've realised this fact themselves and taken action. I know it's a long process to get sets released. It can take years from conception to distribution, 2 to 3 years. So it's certainly possible that they've done this themselves, they've realised themselves, and it was always planned this way. Either way, hooray. Still, I have some trepidation, given that the new series, especially the RTD era of the show, has been well catered for in figure form. I do worry that we'll just get some straightforward re-releases with just some different paint apps, and that's it. However, I don't think this will strictly be the case, and we will get some new figures this year. Based on 2021's releases, certainly the first wave in July last year, that was filled with a load of new sculpting, giving us completely new characters, which was super exciting, hence why I did a video on it. I think the same will happen again this year, in July. I think we'll see a lot more new sculpting, especially since we've never had an 8th Doctor 3-pack before. We've had a Doctor Dalek set from that Toys R Us exclusive from 2013, but that's just a couple of repaints. We haven't had a 3-pack, so there must be some new stuff going on in there, surely. Plus, the 10th Doctor era, well, that's arguably the most popular of the entire show, so that's got to have some new stuff in it, come on. Speaking of those sets, let's segue into that first wave of sets in July and share some ideas. Obviously I can't be completely comprehensive about what figure release could be in each set, otherwise this video would be an ungodly amount of time. So let's just share some ideas, and if you think I've missed anything that's obvious, just put it down in the comments below. Kicking off with the 8th Doctor 3-pack. Well, you gotta have an 8th Doctor in it, but which version? This will undoubtedly be a re-release since we've had all the big costume variants of him in figure form. You have a choice of the TV movie sculpt, the Dark Eyes version, or the Night of the Doctor miniso variant. Personally, I think they will go with a TV movie re-release since the other variants have had a more recent appearance on store shelves. The last time we had a TV movie sculpt was way back in 2013 with the aforementioned Toys R Us set exclusive, inspired by the 8th Doctor comic strips. So I think it will be that one. Potentially it could still be the Night of the Doctor version, since that had a single release, and then it was in that 13 Doctors set, which is now very rare. And if you type into eBay for an 8th Doctor Night of the Doctor version, he's incredibly expensive, so it could be that. But I don't think we'll get the Dark Eyes version, because that only came out a couple of years ago. 2019 and 2020 had a couple of waves there. But I think out of the two, I'd probably go with the TV movie version, especially if it's combined with a couple of companions. Sticking with the TV movie theme, perhaps we could get a Grace and Chang Li as companions in the set, using a Sarah Jane Smith Adventures coated figure body with a new head sculpt for Grace perhaps, and a primeval Nick Cutter body for Chang. Perhaps even instead of Chang Li, since he's not a main companion, maybe we'll get an Eric Roberts master, using the Series 4 Time Lord figure as a base with a new head sculpt and collar piece. Or maybe they could do his other cool look from the film with the big black leather trench coat and shades by using a 9th Doctor figure as a base and then adding a new coat sculpt and an Eric Roberts head sculpt with sunglasses. Or perhaps this set will be more Big Finish inspired, or we'll get some of the most popular companions from Big Finish, like Lucy Miller Donna. I'd love a Sheridan Smith to be on my shelf, or perhaps a Charlie or a Chris. I'm sure they could rummage through their primeval figure sculpts for the bodies, and simply produce some new head sculpts to go on top. No one's going to scrutinise the costumes too much, since it's mainly an audio medium and we just have the odd CD cover art to look at. So they could do rough approximations of the costumes and just make sure to nail the likeness on the head sculpts. Moving on to the 10th Doctor 3-pack. Now obviously Tennant's era of the show is well represented on the shelves, so they could just simply straightforwardly re-release any of the myriad figures they've produced for his era, as you can see from my shelves. Obviously, we're all dying for a Brannigan re-release. Yeah, don't worry, of course not, we're not. That's a joke. On the flip side, sadly, we won't be seeing a Vesperform re-release here, since it's huge and this is a 3-pack, so it won't fit in there. I know many of you are still seeking that figure as it's now incredibly rare and expensive, but there's still hope since they re-released the rare robot figure only last year, after 10 years since its first release. Personally, I think here in this set, given that the 10th Doctor era is considered a second golden age for the show, I think there's a high likelihood we'll get a new companion and or monster variant here. Let's run through. First, you've got to have a 10th Doctor. Now, they released him in every conceivable colour and version before, really, as far as I can remember. Brown and blue suits, with and without the coat, with and without the glasses, one with the 3D glasses, and so on. If they wanted to mix things up, they could release the better articulated prototype of 10 here. If you want to learn more about that version, check out Mondas Productions video. That's pretty good. That would be a nice variant. Otherwise, we're just getting yet another 10th Doctor, which we've already got in abundance. Alongside Tennant, you've got to have a companion, of course. Now, Martha in my eyes is covered with 2 of her key looks. Rose, on the other hand, we don't have many variants for. It's just the one version of her from New Earth under the Tennant era that we have. There are a number of costumes you could go for, obviously. Perhaps a look from the Impossible Planet Satan Pit 2-parter, or from the Series 4 finale. These would be my preferences. You can reuse the head sculpt and legs from the New Earth version, of course, and create a new torso and arms, or even take the arms from an existing female body sculpt elsewhere. Perhaps they could even reuse the Martha torso and arms from the Series 3 finale figure. Not a Rose fan? Well, what about Donna? We only have her look from Planet of the Ood, bizarrely. We don't have her iconic look that's plastered all over the promo images for Series 4. Where's that? Similar to Rose, you can reuse the legs and the head from the Planet of the Ood version, but you'd have to replace the hair with more straightened hair and create a new torso, arms and coat as well. That's quite a bit to do, but she is a very popular companion. Perhaps easier would be to do her look from Partners in Crime by simply reusing the primeval Jenny Lewis figure and adding a new hairpiece to the existing Donna head sculpt. Or maybe if they're feeling generous, they could release that runaway bride version of Donna in her wedding dress, which was a prototype they made many years ago. Since we finally got the prototype version of that second Doctor in his fur coat last year from the Abominable Snowman, maybe that's a possibility. Well, what about monster-wise, I hear you ask? Well, if we stick to the prototype angle, perhaps we could get any of these that you can see on the screen right now. The Cyber Shade from the Next Doctor Christmas special, Lazarus from Series 3's The Lazarus Experiment, The Flood from the fantastic Waters of Mars, or there's Son of Mine from the also fantastic Series 3 2-parter Human Nature Family of Blood, or the Ghost Cyberman from the Series 2 finale, Army of Ghosts / Doomsday. In this latter case, it's just a Cyberman made in clear plastic, so it wouldn't be too difficult to do. If character were feeling generous, maybe they would attempt some new monster figures that they've never prototyped before, do something new. Perhaps they would have a go at a Tritivore from Planet of the Dead, the 2009 Easter special. In this case, they could just use the Laszlo body and then change the head and the hands. This is something I'm about to custom myself, actually, using the lovely 3D prints from Gallifrey Customs. Another option is a Santa robot from the Runaway Bride, which would be very nice alongside the Donna in her wedding dress, the prototype mentioned earlier. In this case, they could perhaps use a Hawthorne or Peter the Winder figure as a base and then adapt it with the new head, paint apps, and then maybe some new sculpting if they were feeling generous. Given this set isn't named the Runaway Bride set, it's actually called the 10th Doctor set. I doubt we'll get this, but you know, it's possible that one of them might be in there, the Donna in the wedding dress, or the Santa robot. If character annoyingly did want to save cost here though, they could release a Scarecrow variant or a Clockwork Droid variant. In both cases it would just be different paint apps. For both the Scarecrows and the Clockwork Droids, they originally both had 3 variants when they were first released. In the case of the Scarecrows, they did actually do a prototype of a beige-yellow one for release, but they never got around to it, which they could do now if they wanted to. For the Clockwork Droids, they could release a yellow-gold version too. Right, now we're on to the History of the Daleks sets. 4 are rumoured for this year, 2 in July and 2 in the autumn. Focusing on the 2 in July, given that the last set that we had was a Planet of the Daleks set, or History of the Daleks set number 8, in July we'd assume the next one will of course be Deaths of the Daleks themed. However, given many collectors are still desiring a Supreme Dalek from Planet of the Daleks, there's a chance that number 9 could be a second set dedicated to Planet of the Daleks, with the Supreme, and then maybe if we're lucky, also the anti-light wave reflecting Dalek, or as I like to call it, the invisible Dalek. Both of these Daleks were released ages ago. Dalek Collector Set 1 for the Supreme, and it never got that re-release in the Wave 2 of the Sound Effects Dalek range. In the case of the Invisible Dalek, that was in a Toys R Us exclusive 2-pack with Pertwee back in 2013. The release of these two would certainly please many collectors. If character don't go down that route, then Set 9 will of course be Death of the Daleks inspired, in which case I'm hoping we'll get 2 silver black Daleks with machine guns and different headlamps on both, one with a clear set of headlamps and one with orange. Or for extra variety, maybe one of them could have the standard Dalek laser gun and one could have the machine gun. As for History of the Daleks set number 10, if 9 is not an extra planet set, then this one would of course be Death of the Daleks. And if not that, then this would be a Genesis of the Daleks set, taking us into the 4th Doctor era. Obviously we'd get 2 grey Daleks with black hemispheres and some different paint apps and details to give 2 different variants. Right, let's move on to the second wave of sets in the autumn. And to kick things off there, we have the 9th Doctor 3-pack. Now we did have a 9th Doctor set a few years back in 2017 at B&M, which had the Auton in the grey suit, which was the rarest Auton variant from back in 2005 when that was originally released. You then had the new 9th Doctor figure with the new articulation, which was introduced first in the 11th Doctor set onwards. And then you also had, sadly, the old disco dancing badly articulated Rose figure that was originally released in 2005. That was popped into this pack. This release was unfortunately a bit of a peg warmer, as it's known, and didn't shift very well. So I'm hoping there's been some learnings from this set, but at the same time, I'm still surprised to hear that a 9th Doctor set is coming out, because the 9th Doctor's one and only awesome season is pretty well represented on the shelves. Most of the figures from Series 1 can be picked up very easily now on eBay. The only one that's really hard to get is the Gelth Builder figure, and I doubt that large figure would be in this 3-pack, alas. In terms of monsters and villains, I can only really see them doing straightforward re-releases, which isn't too exciting. In terms of companions, ooh, it would be lovely to have a properly articulated Rose in her costume from Series 1. There was a prototype made actually by character, and it should be released. You could also stick a Captain Jack Harkness in this set, which would be a straightforward re-release as well. Not too enticing. Plus, with all the recent events surrounding him, they're probably not too keen on releasing him again anytime soon. There's of course Adam, who was in Dalek and The Long Game, but who would want a figure of him? Who would want to go out and buy this set if he was in it? Would character waste sculpting budget on this guy? I doubt it, and I hope not. So we've done monsters, done companions. Of course, the 9th Doctor has to be in this set as well. So of course they'll use the nicely articulated 9th Doctor they've had since the 11th Doctor set, and they'll probably, presumably, release him again in a different coloured jumper? They've already released him in a black jumper, and a reddish maroon one, and then I think also in a green jumper. Did he wear any other colour jumpers? Maybe a dark blue? What else can go in here? Maybe something from his recent return to Big Finish? That new Sideman would be lovely. Nah, too much sculpt work I think, alas. The only other thing I can think of is the prototype figure of Gwyneth from The Unquiet Dead, but that's a bit niche in my view, even if that is a beloved episode. Looking at the shelf, if they have to put a monster in, I think it'll probably be a re-release of maybe a Slitheen or Cassandra, since they're a bit more interesting than humans. Okay, well, what about the 13th Doctor set? Now there's quite a lot of figures I'd actually like from this era. In fact, I've already done a video where I did a little wish list. It was pre-flux. If you want to check that out, you can. Some of those figures that's suggested in there might actually be here in a second. Firstly, obviously, we've got to have a 13th Doctor. We've had 3 variants so far with different coloured t-shirts, a dark blue, a light blue and a reddish maroon, which I think covers all the t-shirt variants. Maybe they'll re-release the light blue one since that's the rarest. A quick repaint would be the 13th Doctor's look from episode 3 of Flux, Once Upon a Time, where the colours of her coat are inverted, so the dark blue is the main colour of the coat rather than the light blue. More interesting would be to do her look from Villa of Diodati with a lovely waistcoat, which may require a tweak to the coat sculpt to add it on, or maybe a new front torso piece. Maybe they could do her wonderful look from Spyfall with the tuxedo-ified version of her costume. You can retain the legs, the feet, the head and the arms from the existing 13th Doctor figure, and then add a new torso and coat piece to get this look. Or if character wanted to be super current, they could do her look from the Easter special Legend of the Sea Devils, which requires a new PVC jacket sculpt to go over the top of the torso. Otherwise, they can just reuse the rest of the existing 13th Doctor figure. I doubt we'd see this release so soon, given that Chibnall's Who has been very secretive and character haven't been privy to behind-the-scenes information in advance. Will we get any companions at all? Well, I don't feel like I need another Yaz. We've got 2 variants of her already. We haven't got Dan though. Dan would be nice. I assume they could just raid their primeval body sculpts, take one of those, chuck a new head sculpt on with a nice likeness to John Bishop, and then that'll be grand. Well, what about current era monsters? Well, as much as I like the new Sontaran design from Flux or the new Sea Devils from the recent Easter special, they would require a lot of new sculpting, so I doubt we'd see those here. More feasible in this set would be a Kablam Man, maybe, from Jodie's first series. A recognisable robot from her era. I think they could take the unit soldier figure body, stick a new PVC torso wrap on it, plus add a new Kablam Man head and hands, and you're done. Could be an army builder for fans, could be a good choice. Or if character wanted to be more up-to-date, given the Weeping Angels have returned, they could straightforwardly re-release them, but that would be a bit boring. A more interesting release would be a Fire Weeping Angel, if they produced it in an orangey translucent plastic. They've already produced one in clear translucent plastic before, so this would only be a slight alteration. Alternatively, they could make a new head sculpt of the Rogue Angel in Village of the Angels, episode 4 of Flux, and just stick that head on the existing Weeping Angel body. I'm in fact doing this custom myself using the lovely 3D printed head from Gallifrey Customs. Of course, many of us are very annoyed that we haven't got the recent iteration of the Master, portrayed by Sacha Dhawan in figure form. For him, they could just reuse the Series 7 11th Doctor body and just put a new head sculpt on top. For greater accuracy, they can use that extra waistcoat piece without the bow tie that got released in the Time of the Doctor set. Also, many of you are asking, where on earth is Jo Martin's Fugitive Doctor? Well, I think to be honest, to do her figure justice, you'd have to do it entirely from scratch, so I don't think we'll get to see her in this set, sadly. Okay, let's talk Daleks now. Now apparently, we'll get another 2 History of the Dalek sets in the autumn, presumably sets 11 and 12. Now set 11 may be a Genesis set if there is an extra planet set earlier in the year, which shifts everything 1 story back. If not, set 11 will be a Destiny of the Dalek set, where maybe we'll get a Kamikaze Dalek variant with bombs alongside a standard light grey one. Or maybe we'll just get 2 standard light grey Daleks with different paint apps to distinguish them both from each other. As for set 12, well, again, if there's an extra planet set earlier in the year, then this will be the Destiny set. If not, then we'll head on to Resurrection of the Daleks with the 5th Doctor. Maybe this set will feature a black and white Supreme Dalek with a standard grey drone, or perhaps it will include 2 grey drone Dalek variants with different headlamps, one with clear, one with orange headlamps. But perhaps more sensibly and more neatly, they'll leave the 80s Dalek stories until next year. It would be neater to finish all the 70s Dalek stories this year after all, so maybe this is the Destiny set. In a similar vein to the Dalek sets, we're apparently also getting a new Davros Dalek 2-pack set. Now there's many a combo they can have here, any of which would be a lovely re-release from character, so it would save them money. Is this the start of re-releasing all the Davroses? In which case, you must start at the beginning with the most iconic version, with the Genesis of the Dalek set, including Michael Wish's original Davros, along with a grey gunmetal Dalek. But would character do this when we'd expect either History of the Daleks set 10 or 11 to be a Genesis set? Perhaps they would, so you could get Davros and then army build some Genesis Daleks. Alternatively, this set could be based on Destiny of the Daleks, and we'll get the Genesis Davros figure painted to look more like the David Goodison Davros, with a grey Destiny Dalek alongside. If we're lucky, maybe this will be the Kamikaze Dalek with bombs attached. This would go along nicely with the History of the Daleks set 11 or 12, if one of those turns out to be Destiny based. It would be great if they could do a new head sculpt for Goodison's Davros to capture the ill-fitting mask quality to his Davros, but I doubt we'll get that. Of course, for the Davros Dalek set, they could also release Terry Malloy's Davros alongside a Dalek to represent resurrection or revelation of the Daleks. Or they could re-release the much sought after and rare Emperor Dalek Terry Malloy Davros from Remembrance of the Daleks alongside an Imperial Dalek. Or they could jump ahead into the new series and release a 10th Doctor and Davros, or a 12th Doctor and Davros. The latter is unlikely, given that that has literally already been released in late 2020. Check out my review, #shameless plug. My bet is that this will be a classic Davros Dalek set, probably based on Genesis or Destiny of the Daleks, to sit alongside the new History of the Daleks sets, and encourage purchase of this Davros Dalek set and the corresponding History of the Daleks set. It encourages army building, really. Last but not least, we're getting a First Doctor and TARDIS set. Hang on, we already got one of those last year, I hear you cry. Well, that's true, but this time it's electronic with lights and sounds. Ooh. So why didn't we get this last year with this set? Well, they spent the budget to alter the TARDIS roof to be more accurate to the First Doctor's actual TARDIS. And now that's done, they've got the budget to presumably add some sound effects and lights. So at last, we'll finally get a First Doctor's TARDIS that's accurate and has the lights and sounds, which combines the accurate sculpting of the 2021 set with the original 2010 set's lights and sounds. So it's the best of both worlds, for both sets. I assume they'll just re-release the hatted, cloaked version of the First Doctor or the standard costume First Doctor here. Probably the latter to distinguish from last year's release, the one I'm holding right now. Phew! Now we've been through all 10 sets due to be released this year, there leaves one last important thing to tell you, and that's unfortunately that the pricing has to change this year. It's all due to a toxic cocktail of current events, so don't expect anything more lavish in the sets because the price has gone up. Unfortunately, just rising costs in a lot of areas means that the retail price of the sets has to go up slightly. So all the 2-packs and all the 3-packs will unfortunately have to go up from $19.99 to $21.99. The First Doctor and Sound Effects TARDIS set will retail at £32.99. Obviously this is more than the standard sets, the 2s and the 3-packs, because it has the lights and sounds. Notably, that's £3 more than the Abominable Snowmen Second Doctor and Electronic TARDIS set from last year. Given that price included a newly sculpted variant of the Second Doctor in his fur coat and postage, as well as the sound effects TARDIS, there may be a chance that we will get a newly sculpted variant of the First Doctor in this B&M set, but I wouldn't want to place a bet on it. It could be the price increase just covers all the rising costs in the supply chain. Plus, we already have the 2 main looks for the First Doctor. Do you really think they'll throw in a First Doctor in a toga from the Romans, or him in a feathered hat to cover the Reign of Terror, or in a cowboy hat like in the Gunfighters? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And that's your lot this week. I assume we'll hear more about these sets in June and exactly what's in them, but for now, until then, I hope you enjoyed this video and learning about the details we have thus far and speculating on which figures might be in there. As always, don't forget to like and comment on this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and also click on that bell for notifications of new content. And if you want more, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. My Twitter is @WhoTimeUK, that's the handle. And then Instagram is instagram.com/WhoTimeUK. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.